CPU coughing crimson codes, lasers and layers lead to loss, and big builds bow badly. All this and more, PrintFixFriday, episode 185. The new Bambu's out. I got some things to say. Let's get into it. Starting off, we got an interesting one here. This is a Prusa XL with an enclosure. You can see the accordion bit of it there, and a part that has warped so badly. The build plate says, what gravity?
Screw gravity.
So this is likely ABS, ASA, nylon, something along those lines for a material that tends to shrink quite a bit. When you print big parts with it and it cools down, it likes to shrink. And if it's attached heavily to a build plate and that build plate doesn't release, it's just gonna bend. The hopeful part of this is that when you peel the part off the build plate, it should lay itself flat. We've been printing some really big parts on our GD Plus 4 recently, out of PETG, like not even out of ABS or high-temp materials for that matter. When they cool, the whole build plate warps. Now, the heated chamber of that machine means it doesn't warp during the print, but after the print, pretty much a guarantee. I would say this print is probably fine. We can see a bit of a line here on that vertical section, which might indicate a little bit of warping on one of the corners. I would say that if this is not too big of a deal, grab some sandpaper, sand it out, and move on. That is kind of the pain point of printing a high-temp material in a machine without a heated chamber. Even on machines like the Prusa Core 1, Bambu X1 Carbon, Prusa XL for that matter, any enclosed printer will do a better job than an open-air printer, but none of them can really do anywhere near as well as a machine with a regulated, temperature-controlled chamber. Now, the Prusa Core 1 has a temperature-controlled chamber. However, it does not have active chamber heating outside of just extra heating from the bed itself. Often you don't have the perfect temperature, and ambient air temperature, especially if you're printing, let's say, in a garage where the air conditioning is not too consistent, the fluctuations of external air temperatures can drastically affect the internal air temperature as well. Where machines like the GD Plus 4 and now Bambu H2D have built-in chamber heaters that can regulate their own environment. Just make sure to turn them off when you're printing low-temperature materials. Speaking of low-temperature material, my melting point, while technically is higher than PLA, if PLA is warping, I don't want to be outside either. My name is Grant. This is 3D Musketeers and PrintFixFriday, where we help you get back to printing with purpose. Printer downtime sucks, and we want to help you solve that. If you do like these videos, don't forget to leave a like and get subscribed. And hey, if you do want to support, links are in that description. I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for my take on the Bambu H2D. Don't worry, this Sunday, the 30th of March, myself and Jacob from Construct 3D are going to talk all about our thoughts of the Bambu Lab H2D. I think I can sum it up pretty easily. One of their test models is a bike helmet. Don't print safety gear. And I would even argue that unless you really know what you're doing, don't print a bike saddle. It's cool, but it is completely impractical, can cause you a lot of pain, especially the gentleman in that particular category. But a bike helmet, if you 3D print it and you actually take a fall, you could die. Don't die because you're doing something stupid.
Die because you're doing something sick.
And while, yes, bike helmets are made of plastic and things like that, they're engineered by people that know what they're doing. They're manufactured in such a way that they meet standards. The fact that Bambu uses this as one of their, sample models is incredibly dangerous, because I promise you that someone is going to try this with their brand new printer because they saw it on the website. Honestly, even the armor suit is a little bit close to where I have issues, but let's be real, I don't think anyone's gonna try to hit that with a long sword.
Although, I'm available for testing.
As for 3D printed shoes go, if you don't understand podiatry and how to work with the human foot, how to build a proper arch and support your particular feet the way that you need, these could cause you way more pain than they solve. I think it's a great way to show capabilities of 3D printers and a great show model. Now, you can take all the time you want and learn this kind of stuff, but please be careful. I do recognize, though, that the bulk of these are to show off the multi-material, multi-modality capabilities of the H2D, but it does upset me. I believe that Bambu should look at changing this, because there are a lot of other things about this that I don't have issues with. And in fact, Jacob and I have a lot of good things to say about this. Yeah, I know, you weren't expecting that. Get subscribed, show up to the live stream on Sunday where we're going to talk all about the H2D. And I'm sure we're going to talk about one of my pet peeves, multi-process machines. The H2D has a laser system as well. This is after only 40 hours of lasering. Do not mix machines, please and thank you. I recognize if you don't have a lot of space, this can be a bit challenging, but you have to understand that if you're looking at this machine as a multi-process machine, it is going to get very dirty. The dross that comes off of laser cutters is often very problematic for any motion system. And in fact, a buddy of mine, Tripod's Garage, does a great job of talking about it. He's one of the go-to guys when it comes to lasers in this industry, and this kind of cleaning is not only necessary, if you don't do it, your printer does pose a fire risk, and it will damage the ability for the 3D printer system to function properly. Is it cool that they basically built a multi-process machine? Sure, but I feel like with how Snapmaker did not have phenomenal success with the A350, and you can watch my stream of it if you want, I was not happy with that machine, specifically because of their data collection protocol. This seems to be a bit of a trend here, but also because of, well, the lack of proper rigorous safety. We've seen videos of the H2D's laser, and through proper laser safety glasses, you should not be able to see anything or a very, very small gray dot. The fact that videos that we're seeing of these H2D laser systems show the beam very clearly and the dot very clearly, while it's not blue, it's filtered through the green panels, I'm not certain that's actually safe. So if you do have access to an H2D, I do want to look at getting readings of it so we can verify if it's actually safe. We don't want, especially toddlers, animals, to be damaged by this. And on the topic of laser safety, Phoenix X put out a very short tweet, and the comments are really, really great about materials you should avoid. ABS emits hydrogen cyanide gas, which is highly toxic, even in small amounts. PVC will literally kill you because that off gas is chlorine gas. It's not fun. It's corrosive to everything, including your printer. Fiberglass, a carbon fiber, just don't. Straight up don't. It's also not going to work very well. None of this is good. Please make sure that if you're going to play with a laser, you know what you're putting in it. Genuine leather is crappy leather. You want rawhide, full grain leather. Don't use this synthetic leather. It is almost always PVC and can and will harm you and those around you. Remember, PVC is toxic. We don't have a thing for that. We'll make one. We'll link to this along with every other print failure and resource in that description, so if you do want to learn more about it, get a little bit educated so you don't make these mistakes, and particularly that makerspaces around you don't make these mistakes either, you can do so. This is not to say that I don't like the H2D. I think as a 3D printer, it has potential. The extra bits to it, go buy dedicated machines. I'd like to know from you in the comments. Are you getting an H2D? What do you think of it? The price point's absolutely ridiculous. We all thought it was going to be more than that. How do you feel about lasers inside of 3D printers? But I can tell you, certainly, this constitutes as a fail. Look at all the mess. This machine is going to get filthy if you actually use the laser. Those of you that own Bambus already know how bad ABS, dross, and VOC is to clean. This is worse. And something else to point out, this thing's got so many freaking cameras. Have fun cleaning all the lenses. I like that there's extra safety stuff, but my gosh, my X1 Carbon yells at me enough to clean its LiDAR sensors and things like that. I can't imagine how often you're gonna have to do that with this machine. Just buy a purpose-built laser. They're not expensive, and in fact, I think you could get a decent laser for the cost of the laser upgrade. And based on the software, it looks like they're going after Glowforge. I don't know. Tune in on Sunday. We'll talk more about it then. Moving on to advice on multicolor PLA silk filaments. We've got a custom-built Core XY printer that runs great on gray and black PLAs, but this is their first time playing around with silk. The bottom of the temp tower is at 240, and that's where it looks the best, and the rest of it looks like the hamburger monster from hell, and I'm very confused. This is not how a 3D print should look, and quite frankly, I'm impressed with the fact that it got this far to begin with. Silk PLA is often a PLA and TPU blend. If you want to see how to make silk filament, we actually did an entire video making Jesse's elixir. This elixir, in fact, at Printed Solid. We'll card to it so you guys can take a look. It was a really fun video, and you can even see the formula. It's in multitudes of dog barking. When you're printing with silk PLA, often you need a little bit of extra temperature to handle the TPU that's mixed in, and then make sure that you have adequate cooling. And I think that's the issue that we have here. We're not cooling it well enough. We're not cooling it where it needs to be cooled, because a multicolor or a co-extrusion or tri-extrusion material doesn't really print differently in our experience than printing with just regular silk filament. 240 is way too hot. I'd maybe start my temp tower like 225, 230 at the most, lean it out to about 185, 190. But because this is a custom-built printer, there are so many questions to ask. What hot ends are you running? What volumetric speed are you running? And while yes, 80 millimeters per second is fine, what layer height are you running? What cooling do you have? Is it effective with gray and black PLA? Unfortunately, with custom machines come lots of custom questions. Hopefully, we can get this resolved, but comments say, you don't need to fix the temperature, it needs an extrudism. The user did post an update stating that it was a cooling problem. The fans were not turning on at all. They confirmed they were turned on in the slicer, and they can activate it from Octoprint, so it's not a hardware issue, an issue they'll just have to figure out some other way. The dryer is brand new, and it's the first time they printed a full spool from within it. I don't think that's going to be their issue. It is absolutely related to cooling. Potentially, we had some cooling here, and the fans slowly died. Check for wires that are getting to a point where they're starting to fail. Grab your fan wires and wiggle them while the fan is on and see if the fan, slows down or turns itself off. The wires just might be failing, and during certain areas, the copper can still make contact and the fan does turn on. Grab like a desk fan and point it at it and see if that helps. But this is also why you should be monitoring your prints, especially with brand new materials, to make sure things are okay. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Other than cooling, what did you think this was? Does it need an exorcism or an extrudism? And should we look at adopting crazy phrases for 3D prints that look like mutated hamburger helper? Love to know your thoughts. Next up, from the BIGTREETECH subreddit with the title, "So This Just Happened Today." We've got a CPU here that is throwing an error code with such a bright light that it's literally melting. This is caused by a short. In fact, we can see the short. It's right there. And it's shorting out the rest of the CPU. Unfortunately, with time, copper wire can fail, especially if it's under a little bit of extra tension. This particular blue wire, I don't see anything where it's actually connecting. So my thought is potentially that blue wire is not supposed to be there. The individual said the printer was not even printing at the time they noticed the smell of burning. It finished a 17-hour print overnight and was just sitting idle with the motors and heaters off for about 2 hours. They were planning to upload and print more stuff later. The circuit breakers did not burn at all. I'm assuming they mean the fuses, and yeah, they probably won't. It doesn't take a lot to do this. Your standard heater cartridge for a 3D printer, one like this or like the cylindrical type, is somewhere around 40 watts worth of heat. This doesn't normally take place in an area that is designed for that much heat and an area that is under an actual breaker or a fuse or something like that. So just be a little bit careful. This honestly only needs like 5 or 10 watts worth of power, and you can get parts that absolutely glow red. Something in there shorted, the board is completely fried, throw it out and get another one. The cool thing is there are more recent SKR boards, so hey, no better time for an upgrade than when your printer almost catches fire and burns your house down. But I'm glad that you were there. This further expands my desire for a controlled on and off for a 3D printer for the actual power into the machine. I'd like to know if this has ever happened to you. My assumption is that this blue wire is directly to blame. It could have pulled out of one of these connectors. It could have broken from somewhere, dragged across the board, shorted some stuff across, and once it starts, well, you just can't stop. It's like a Pringles can. The boards are cheap. It'll be nice to rewire the printer, and I can see what looks like some solderless crimps in there as well. Might be time to redo the wiring. Does this ever happen to you guys? I've never had a board short out like this before. I have blown 5-volt rails on duet boards before, but never had something warm up like this to where it's literally glowing red. Next up, the OrangeStorm GigaWarp over here with a part that is 450 by 250 millimeters, a 1 millimeter nozzle with 0.5 millimeter layers, 220C on the nozzle, 60C on the bed, JOPLA, and we've got a pretty serious warp, and there's actually one on the back where it's pulled up the build plate as well. It looks like if there was a brim, it's not attached, or maybe that was a skirt of some sort. Nonetheless, she ain't happy. And this would be a case of, well, you could have seen it, because the warp happened right about there. PLA does and can warp. Thick layers, as they cool, tend to shrink a lot more, just because there's more thermal mass in them, and the material can shrink further. When you're dealing with big prints like this, you do often need to better regulate the temperature ambient in the room and temperature ambient around the machine. There is no current way to enclose one of these Giga printers unless you're doing something DIY, and then I'm gonna just question the safety of it, but hey, whatever, if it's jank and it works, it's not jank. Things like drafts in the room, air conditioning popping on and off, heck, even temperature from the outside getting inside. When it gets nice and cool at night and the windows are nice and cold, well, the room cools down too. And with PLA, around that part doesn't stay as hot as you would think. While yes, a lot of the smaller machines say, open the door, vent the enclosure, make sure that it doesn't get too hot because you'll get heat creep. On bigger machines like this, you do want a little bit of chamber temperature. For PLA, 30-35C is often more than fine. And you could easily build in something that utilizes a system similar to the Prusa Core 1, where it has a thermistor, some fans, and a controller that basically tells the fans to turn on to maintain an ambient chamber temperature. While this isn't a perfect solution, an active chamber heater would be significantly better. For a machine of that size and the build plate being well over 2,000 watts, it's probably fine with just regular heating on its own, but maybe having a fan or two, some small ones like spare 5015 blowers or 40 by 10 millimeter radial fans, just to circulate a little bit of air around the chamber would be more than enough to maintain a decent overall spread of the heat and hopefully keep it from warping. But otherwise, this is a bit of a spray and pray moment. There's not much you can do unless you're willing to play the environmental game and try to limit environmental factors that can adjust the ambient air surrounding the machine. Also, for some reason, I find JOPLA tends to work more than others, but that's just my personal experience. Do you own a OrangeStorm Giga? What's been your experience with it? We don't have one. We don't have plans on getting one. We don't have the space for it. It's so large, it doesn't fit through a regular door, which means you basically have to assemble it in place. And if you want to remove it, you have to take it apart, which can be a little bit challenging. So for us personally, it's a bit of a pass at the moment. I'd rather just make it in multiple pieces and glue it together with 3D Gloop. By the way, congratulations to the Gloop team. They are expanding to a massive warehouse. So if you are looking to get some of that good sticky stuff, keep an eye out because I'm betting they're going to be ramping up production here relatively soon. And you can bet that as soon as they're ready, we'll be out there to take a tour of that facility and show you guys how they make some of the strongest chemical welding agent for 3D printers on the planet. We love it. I literally have multiple bottles of Gloop in reach because I use it all the freaking time. Just please be careful with it. It's got methylene chloride in it. TLDR, don't be stupid. Speaking of people that aren't stupid, their names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher, or at least allegedly. And if you do want to support the efforts that we do here, you can do so for as little as $1 a month. And hey, at the $10 tier and higher, get to come hang out in our private Discord server where I spend multiple hours a week just hanging out on there. We'd love to have you over there. And it goes a long way to helping us get to that 50,000 subscriber mark and, hey, maybe making this thing an actual real business for all of the members of the media team.
Please.
That is all I have for you all today. If you do enjoy this kind of thing, click those links below me. But stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And please don't laser PVC. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.
Oh.